Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm doing good. I meant to tell you last time about my new favorite book that I'm reading. Jen Davis sent me this. Have you ever read this, Chase the Lion?
No, but I will have it on my list.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna love it, by Mark Batterson. Chase the Lion. It's a faith-based book, but it's so much more. Oh my gosh, Jen Davis said something one time, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that is like the smartest thing I've ever heard." And she said, "Oh, it's from one of my favorite books, Chase the Lion." And I said, "What? I've never heard of that." And I feel like we know every book that there is to know.
I mean, don't you kind of wake up in a sweat thinking, what if there's books out there I don't know about?
Yes.
Somebody say one, you're like, I've never even heard about that book.
Yes, I know. And so she said, "You've never read Chase the Lion?" I'm like, "No." And so like 2 days later, it showed up at my house. So I was like, "Oh, good. Thank you." She sent it to me. It is so good. You have to put it on your list. I did my Wednesday morning mindset last week about it. And it is just, it's really, really good. Anyway, I'll have to tell you more about it later.
I will definitely do that. I am actually re-listening to Dream Giver by by Bruce Wilkinson. I always say Jeff, it's by Bruce.
I've not read that for years.
I love it. It's a parable. And if you've got kids, stick it in the car. And the reason I'm listening to it is I woke up one day and said, why am I not telling Amelia, which is my granddaughter? She loves stories before she goes to sleep. Why am I not telling her the story of Dream Giver, where the guy lives in the land of ordinary and he wants to be somebody, but he lives in the land of familiar, and familiar is so safe. I'm like, what am I doing? This would be a great story. I'm like, well, I better refresh myself on how to bring it down to a 3-year-old level.
She will love that. She's like 3 going on 13 though.
Yeah. So as soon as I finish this one, which I'm pretty close, I will pick up that one. I'll move that one up on my list. So thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah, you'll love it. I thought about you as soon as the first chapter, I was like, oh, Linda would love this book.
So I got the idea of for you and I to do this podcast from listening to another podcast, and it was Dan Sullivan and Dean Jackson, and they were talking about, I will know I'm successful when, and then you fill in the blank. So I thought, how fun would that be? And I think it's an important question for people to ask themselves, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? And if you don't design your life, somebody or something else will. And so I think this is super important. So what are some of the things that you've learned about your definition of I'll know I'm successful when?
So I had to think about this one. And actually, one of the things that I wanted to read was from Dan's book, Who Not How. And I think I shared this with you before. I don't know if we've talked about that on the podcast or in the Leadership Academy. But when I read these 10 things that Dan says, you know, you're successful when, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. Like, that is it. All of that stuff is it. So it was number 1, I can wake up every day and ask, what would I like to do today? Number 2, my passive revenue exceeds my lifestyle needs, which that would probably be my first answer to just answer your question, would be when my passive exceeds my lifestyle. Number 3, I can live anywhere in the world that I choose. Number 4, I'm working on projects that excite me and allow me to do my best work. Number 5, I can disappear for several months with no effect on my income. Number 6, there are no whiny people in my life. That's probably my favorite one. Number 7, I wear my watch for curiosity only. Number 8, I have no time obligations or deadlines. Number 9, I wear whatever I want all the time. And number 10, I can quit anytime. And so when I was reading through those, I was like, gosh, those are all so freaking good. But for me, probably a couple that stand out, and really, if I just think about what I've learned over the last little bit, I think forever I always thought that it was like, you know, when you make $100,000, and then when you become a millionaire, and then when you do all this stuff, you know, net worth millionaire, whatever it is, and really, that's not really it. I feel like, because there's always, because you and I talked about this before, but when you're an achiever, that the money doesn't matter. You're still going to wake up and be like, oh, I want to do something else today. I want to do something else today. and you still want to keep going and achieving. And so for me, I think it's other things now, which are, of course, the passive revenue exceeding lifestyle needs. But really working on the things that are my unique ability. I feel like that's when I know that I'll feel successful, when I can just work on those things. And so I texted you last night and told you this, but I just busted out that unique ability stuff just on Thursday because I didn't feel good. I canceled some of my calls because I had laryngitis. I didn't have a voice. So I was like, what can I do? Because I'm not just going to sit here. So I got back out those sheets and I made that list of all the things that I do every single day. And then I put the U, if I'm good at it and I am excited about doing it, I have passion, or the E of I'm really good at it, people would say, but I don't like love it, but I'll do it. It doesn't give me passion, to then like it gives me anxiety. And then every time I do this, I fail.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. And what's interesting is Jimmy was out of town last week. He went to Branson to work on some cabins. And so I just crammed podcasts and everything. And I listened to one where you're going to love this because it's going to tie back in what you said about money. Is Dan said that a lot of people say money doesn't buy happiness, but actually what money buys is freedom.
Time
from the things that you don't love to do,
Yep.
freedom from the things you love to do, and that's happiness. So when you take back to that, then you kind of see how it all goes together.
Yep, totally. I need to listen to whatever podcast that was. You'll have to send it to me.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was so good. And I went, oh, that's so true.
It is. Yeah.
We can't figure out what it is, but to me, it's about freedom. And I think I might have told this before, but I think your soul, when freedom is important to, I think your soul kind of starts to tell you that at a very young age. And I remember always having jobs that I had variety of times to go in. And then all of a sudden after high school, because I didn't go right to college, you were expected to get a job. And, you went and got a job that was 8:00 and get off at 5. I was the most miserable I've ever been. So I always say I quit that to get into real estate, where you go in way before 8 and get off way after 5. But it was the freedom of me making that decision. So I love that really, what money buys is the freedoms to not have to do the things you don't love. And I love this other thing he said. I don't know if it's on the same podcast or different, but he says, if you don't know what success is, you wind up doing a lot of stuff you don't like. And one way to think about that is, if it's something you need to do, don't be afraid to ask someone, how can we redo this so I will enjoy it? Because you talked about, he has an exercise in one of the workshops that we do is how do you do, what do you love, what gets you excited and motivated, and kind of what you said, and what are you good at, but you don't really love to do? And then which one's annoying? What things are annoying? The annoying should go away first. But it was interesting because Press was saying to me on a project that we're working on, he's like, well, I need you to do some videos. And I said, I'm not saying no to the videos, but I'm saying, let's brainstorm how I would love doing the videos. And so one of the things that came up in the brainstorm is, I would do it interview style. I would love if someone was interviewing, I give my best stuff when I'm, collaborating with another person. Let's brainstorm because, I think sometimes we just say, well, I don't like to do that. But then you have to ask yourself, but what way would I like to do that?
Yep.
It would actually give me excitement and I would enjoy it, because I actually can feel when I'm going to not do something. I'm going to procrastinate. I might tell you I'm going to do it, but then I'm going to procrastinate forever and not do it.
Yep. Definitely. I'm the same exact way.
Let's turn that around. Let's figure out how would you like doing it, and what would make that annoying actually fun. And it has to be with whatever's in my strength zone. And to me, that's talking to top realtors, adding value to top realtors, and maybe having someone that is in the video with me.
Yeah, definitely.
Any questions or something.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. Well, that's just good to think about, because we all are going to have things that we don't really like to do or don't want to do. So just figuring out what would make us like it? What way could we do it I like that a lot.
I think in real estate, the one thing we don't ever do is try, and I guess I accidentally somehow did this, but get our stuff down to the one thing that we love the most. But, over the years, because I wasn't good at so much of this stuff, I kind of had to get other people to do it or something. And so, the minute they said the word buyer agent, I said, give me some of those. I can't stand to go to the fire forever and have to do all that chitty chat stuff you have to do. And then the transactions, got rid of those right away. I hate doing the transaction. I hate doing the paperwork. So pretty soon, all I was doing was taking about 200 listings a year. That was the one thing I did. And it was great for a while until all of a sudden it wasn't as exciting and fun to me.
Yeah.
So I think as realtors, we've got to learn to not just grind it out and go do it. Make that list like you made. So tell them again what was on the list. What are the categories so that they can make their own list?
Okay, so you write down a list. I mean, I think there was 40 things, but as many as you can of all the things that you do, say maybe not even in a day, say in a week, because you might do something different one of the other days. All of the things in your business that you're doing. So from appointments to returning emails to paperwork to meeting with people to, whatever, teaching, whatever it is that you're doing, you make the full list as much as you can. And then you go back by each thing and you put either a U, an E. Okay, you know what? Now I'm gonna have to pull it up. A U, an E, an I, or a C next to it. And I'll tell you right now.
E means exciting. Or what is
the U is your unique ability.
Nobody can do it as good as you.
Yeah. Well, and that would be things that you are. Let's see. Do I have it right here? Nope, I don't. Okay, I'll find it. That would be things. The U was, I don't remember what the names of them are, but the U was you're really, really good at it and you have passion around doing it. So you're really good at it and you like to do it. You could do it all day long. And then the E is, here it is. The E is you're really, really good at it. Okay, the U is your unique ability, your superior skill, you have passion, it gives you energy, and it's a never-ending improvement. I mean, you could just do it all the time and you're great at it. The E are your excellent activities. So you have superior skill, but you don't have the passion. You might have a great reputation for doing those things. People might say, oh my gosh, Linda is so good at blank. And you would even say, yeah, I'm really good at that, but you don't have passion when you do it. You're just good at it.
I couldn't do it for the next 25 years.
That's right. And then the C are your competent activities. So these are things that meet minimum standards. You pretty much do them because you're going to meet the standard. They could give you a little bit of anxiety, their repetition. So like for me, that honestly is returning emails all the time. Like that was one of the ones I put in there. It gives me a little bit of anxiety to look, and I have like 7,000 and they're all they're very repetitious. They come every single day. I can return them and meet the standard at it, but it's not like I'm great at it or it gives me, you know what I mean? I don't have passion around it. Then the I are incompetent activities. So these are things that you actually fail at when you do. They can cause you conflict. You're super frustrated. You're stressed out over them. Like for me, this would be probably paperwork or, something like that. So after you make your full list, then you go back and you put a U, an E, or a C, or an I next to it. And then you're even supposed to go a step further, which this was the page I didn't do because I needed you to refresh my memory on this. But then you put an action plan together around how can you spend more of your time in just those things that you put a U next to, that you're really, really good at, and you have a ton of passion around it. It gives you energy. And like you said, you could do that for the next 10, 20 years and you would love it. You would never bore from doing it, or it wouldn't give you anxiety or stress you out. So for me, I think getting in those lists of what were the U's would be how I would know, one, that I'm being successful because I'm enjoying and I have a lot of passion around those things.
Mm-hmm. And I think as realtors, we don't think, oh, how can I get my whole world to a place where I'm only doing that one thing?
Yeah.
Because that is my unique ability and what I love doing, what gives me energy. And because I think a lot of realtors are just kind of pretty good at a lot of it. They just, I always think they worry that they're going to give it to somebody who's not as good as them. But, the only thing I would add on Dan's and Dean, because I know it's Dan and Dean's because I've heard Dean say it too, 10 list is, for me, I need to be changing lives and making, especially in realtors' lives, their future brighter than their past. Yeah. I need to bring something to the table that I feel like after communicating with me or having a relationship with me, their future is brighter than their past, because that's what fills me up. And so I would have to have Those people give me energy. I love doing it. I could do it all day long. Don't worry about whether I've eaten that day. And I can do it for the next 25 years, right? And so anything around getting to do that more, I would know that my life is a success. But I mean, I would adopt all 10 that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think that's probably summed up in 10 things, what I've strived my life for. And I'm pretty darn close on most of them.
Yeah, you are. I was thinking that when I read through the list, you really are pretty close. I like that you said the future, leave somebody with their future brighter than their past. The little note that I made that wasn't on the 10. Well, I guess it kind of is, but I heard Dave Ramsey this morning was a guest speaker on one of the churches that I watch online, Craig Rochelle's church. And he was, and I've actually never done the full Dave Ramsey plan. I've done a lot of his, like read a lot of his stuff and kind of semi-followed it, but never the whole thing. But he said, I probably need to, but he said at the end, he said, you can't, for those of you who have a generous gene, which I feel like you and I both have the generous gene, we always want to give and make sure that, we're helping other people. He said, for those of you that have the generous gene, you can never say that you have enough money, because you can't be outrageously generous if you're broke, or if you're just making ends meet, or even if you're at a place where you just kind of feel good. But the reason that we should all strive to make as much money as we possibly can is because especially for those of us who have a generous gene, he said you should strive every day to be outrageously generous. Like when people are like, they're astounded by your generosity, which John Maxwell said that before too. And they almost to the point where they would say, there's no way that could have even have happened unless like God had something to do with it. Like you're outrageously generous. And one of the people I think of is, who always comes to my mind now after we heard him, is Casey from Movement Mortgage. I mean, talk about outrageously generous. Like that, what he's done is insane. It's so great. So I was thinking when I wrote that 10 list down, and then I thought the only thing I would add to that is I feel like I'll know I'm super successful when I can just be outrageously generous all the time. I mean, just any way to be generous, I would have no issue being able to just do it. And that to me would be a good definition of success.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've said many times, the beauty of having enough passive income that you're not worried about your cash flow that's coming in is, and I didn't know this early on when I was working so hard to build that, is when you've been able to step into a void of somebody that you care about and just, pay off their house, give them a life estate, doing something like that they can't do for themselves.
Yeah.
There is no explanation of how that feels when you just write the check without ever blinking and not ever having to worry about it. So I absolutely would add, yeah. And to me, that kind of fits in with enough passive income.
Yeah.
You're not just meeting your day-to-day challenges. You're actually in excess and it's coming in passively. So you're not constantly worried about it disappearing.
Yeah. I love that. He told a story about how when he said that he took his kids, he said, I would encourage everybody to do this. If you have young kids, put your kids in the car, go to Waffle House on either Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, some sort of a holiday, pull up to Waffle House, park your car right in front of the window so that your kids can see you go in. He said, leave your kids in the car. They'll be fine. Nobody will call the law that fast. He said, leave your kids in the car. He said, go in, sit down at the counter, buy just a cup of coffee or, something quick, one thing. And he said, and then when you pay, he showed this morning, he pulled out, he said, leave 3 or 4 Benjamins, $100 bills on the thing. And then he said, get up and walk out and go sit in the car. And he said, watch the kids, watch whoever the waitress or the server is, waiter, and watch how they're like, oh my gosh, you're kidding. And then he said, instantly they're like, no. And he said, like, they put their hands to their chest. And he said, 9 times out of 10, like they'll look up and say, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, or thank you so much. Even if they're not people of faith, he said, it's like some sort of, I don't know, I can't remember what he called it, but he said, that's how I knew I was successful, when I could do that more times than not. And he said, and be able to have my kids like see that, because they weren't saying, oh, my dad, has a bunch of money or whatever. He said, then you show them and say, hey, like, this is what the Lord can do when you commit your money to the Lord.
I love that. Oh, and it's so funny. I'm glad you said that, because part of what I want to do with our Mimi and Pop-Up Camp, and I had written it down, is how do I we show them about giving back? That would be a great way to do it, because we do it 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Oh, perfect.
Fun. That's going to go on my list this year. And have you ever heard about the giving jar? There's actually a little book that goes with it, and it talks about this little family and this little girl. She sees this homeless lady and she wants to give her, she was taking her jar of money in for something, but instead what she wants to do is give it to the homeless lady. And it's weird how it goes all around and comes back to them.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It gives me chill bumps to think about it. I'll have to look it up and find it. But what you do is the book actually comes with with a jar.
Oh.
And you fill that jar up every year. We've done this before. And you fill that jar up every year, and then you just ask the Lord, who needs this money? And the Spirit kind of just moves you, and you know who to give that whole jar of money to right at Christmas time.
That is so cool. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, so cool.
Love it.
So I love it. So let's give them an action item. So let's have them list down the things the activities that you listed, and to ask themselves, I'll know I'm a success when. And then we'd love to see those submitted to you. Us.
Yeah.
If you could submit them to us at info@everything life in real estate, and let us see what your definition of success will look like. I will know I'm successful when, and then let's fill in the blanks.
Yeah, love that.
Dana, any final thoughts you'd give around this topic? I think it's a great activity for people to do, because otherwise, like I said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yep, totally.
Awesome.
No, I just think everyone's definition of success is different. And so not necessarily have to compare to anybody else's, because it's yours. But yeah, I used to never really think about that until probably the last 5 years. So I just think even putting it to the forefront of your mind is a first step.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. And I would say, if you resonate with your list, put it up in front of you and ask yourself every so often, how am I doing? Am I moving closer to what I feel I could say? And, I always think about that book by the lady, The 10 Regrets of the Dying, Bonnie Ware, her name. And she says the number one regret, this always resonates with me, the number one regret that people have when they're dying is living a life that they think was true to someone else and not to themselves. Yeah. And part of that is they've never decided, what would a successful life look like? I ask myself all the time, what would I regret? If I was at the end of my life, what would I regret? Yeah,
that's a good question.
Just make sure that I don't have anything super important on that list. And if I do, what am I doing about it? How am I turning that into something that, because none of us never know how long we have. And I don't want to wake up tomorrow and realize it's my end and I've got this list of regrets I was going to do something about.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that's a great question.
Love it. All right. So Dana, I guess I'll see you at the next Leadership Academy. And remember, if you have a comment, a question, a topic, a challenge, or an opportunity that you would love to discuss with Dana and I, please submit them to info@everything life and real estate. And we'll be happy to bring your topic up or bring you on as a guest. And remember, if the greatest compliment you can give us is to pass this podcast along to anybody in the industry or anybody in the business world that you think might enjoy these topics and get something from them. And if you haven't hit subscribe, be sure and hit subscribe below. That's how other people find us. And Dana, I guess I'll see you at the Leadership Academy, and maybe we'll get some great nuggets that we can share back on this podcast.
Yes, sounds great. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.